Hello and welcome to the Behind the Blockchain podcast. Today I'm joined by Zoltan Fazekas, the head of research at Zilliqa. Zoltan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me today. I'm fine. I hope you're fine too.
Yeah, can't complain. I hope I pronounced your name properly then.
It was perfect.
Good, good. Zoltan, for people who don't know who you are, could you give us a bit of an introduction, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a blockchain research scientist working at Zilliqa, as you mentioned. Besides that, teaching at universities, giving blockchain courses. I'm mentoring startups, supporting startups in this field. So, yeah, various activities going on.
Great. And so going back to I guess the very start of your career, why did you take an interest in technology in the first place?
Oh, for that, we need to jump back, I don't know, 30 years or so, or even more.
Okay,
So
okay.
as a child already, I was kind of talented in math and fascinated by computers from the first time I saw one. So I remember, I guess I was kind of maybe 9 or 10 when I
Okay.
got a Commodore 64, if you know what I'm talking about. And it was the
I've heard
best
of one.
Christmas ever. Yeah. So those machines also used to be computers, home computers, and since then I've been simply into computers and software development. I was eager to learn everything. So the first thing I learned on that machine was kind of basic. I mean, the programming language basic. Later on, I replaced this C64 with a PC. This is more of the kind of computers we know today. I learned kind of everything. Like I use Pascal, C, C++, all this before my first kind of job or working experience. Before I later on learned Java, JavaScript, Python, then Solidity, Rust, and all these kind of newer things. So yeah, it was since my childhood. Simply, I'm fascinated by this industry, by computer technology, and yeah, this is it.
Nice. Back way back then. How did you know that you wanted that as a Christmas present?
I was asking for that for I guess 2 years or so. But yeah,
Okay.
back then it was kind of not normal to have a computer at home, especially in the country where I come from originally. It was expensive, so not kind of that affordable as today, and it's kind of normal to have one at home. No internet, of course, so it was a completely different age. But so one, I cannot even exactly remember where. I guess we visited some relatives of ours, and that guy worked with computers, and that was the first time I saw one. And yeah, then I was always kind of asking my parents, hey, oh, do you think I can get one? Do you think I can get one? And yeah, I guess 1 or 2 years later, they had no other choice than to buy me one. And yeah, of course I was playing games and everything, but I was really interested in how these machines work. I even disassembled this C64 and reassembled it again, and it still worked. So didn't damage it completely, but I wanted to understand and learn everything. And yeah, this curiosity is something that I kept. The same kind of curiosity as children have until my current age.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So could you talk us through your career journey then? So you got your C64, got obsessed with technology, obsessed with computers, and then yeah, where did your kind of career take off from there, and how did it reach where it is now?
Yeah, so it was obvious that I would study computer science, which I did. End of the 90s, I got my PhD 17, 18 years ago. At the same time, I started to work, and altogether I spent, I guess, 2 decades in what you call Web 2 today. So kind of web development, from end of the 90s. Then the dot-com burst, uh, but still staying in the same industry and working there. That I call this sometimes the first chapter of my professional life. We will get to the to the next chapter, and the peak of it, I would say, of my career was when I worked for a German software company, around 500 employees, and renowned clients in Germany, Austria, so kind of in this region. And I was member of the executive board there, and this is where my kind of change of mindset also began, because the larger the company grew, the less time I was able to spend on hands-on work, so kind of writing
Yeah.
code or everything you would call hands-on work. And at some point, I had kind of no other choice than, if I wanted to stay there and keep my role, than to look for some new area, which where I can again get back to hands-on because nobody else can. But at the same time, my company would benefit from. So kind of expansion, new business opportunities. And 2016, it this area was blockchain, with mainly Ethereum as kind of the main platform or tech stack, where I started to engage myself. I built up a team within that company. Most of them, my colleagues, were students, so really young chaps, super curious about how this new thing works. And I did the same hands-on job like them, so kind of Solidity engineer. Later on, conducted some smart contract audits. We designed ZK protocols and implemented circuits. I will tell you in a minute why. And just one of our many projects I'm very proud of, was a anonymous voting protocol on Ethereum using ZK snarks, and it was very useful during the pandemics, where kind of companies or organizations like associations with all of their members couldn't meet at some venues, to have their annual general meetings or whatever they are called, and vote on proposals. So they needed kind of a digital way of voting, of governance, and we thought, yeah, it's maybe something where blockchain can help, smart contracts can help, and zero knowledge can help. And this was just one of our projects in
Cool.
that company. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, I just said
At some
cool.
point,
Sounds good.
okay. At some point, I saw that I will need to decide between that job and staying with that company, and going kind of full in Web3 and blockchain. So 2020, I left the company and joined a startup called My Privacy. It's a kind of a cryptography startup. Worked there as CTO, and 2022, finally I joined Zilliqa, and we can talk a bit more about Zilliqa if you want to later.
Yeah, for sure. And how did you? Was there a point in that job that was a catalyst for you to say, right now I want to leave and I want to really pursue this Web3 thing?
Yeah, I struggled a little bit with the attitude of large companies, attitude, how they wanted to use a blockchain because it was fancy to use a blockchain. It's great for a press release to tell, hey, we are building this and that using a blockchain, but many of them didn't really mean it. So they would have been happy, and maybe there was even not even a need for a decentralized or distributed technology for their use case. They just wanted to have one, and I saw several such cases where it was, we called it blockchain posing, but it was not real. And when I worked, and this was a contrast when I worked with Web3 startups, blockchain startups, at the same time on other topics like. I don't know. One of them had a smart wallet with thousands of users. It was already live, and my job was to review their smart contracts and to kind of work out a migration strategy from Ethereum to Polygon. So super interesting topics. I saw what or how a kind of real use of blockchain can look like, and this was, I guess, also one of the important kind of triggers where I thought, okay, I want to go for the real thing.
And then did you just see a job online at Zilliqa and you applied for it, or did they headhunt you out of that company? How did you kind of
Yeah,
land that
there
that
are
role?
there are headhunters and recruiters out there, as you might know.
Yeah,
So
there's a
yeah,
few of us.
I was approached by one. Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. And could you talk us through the skills that you needed to learn or that you have learned throughout your career that have really helped you in your current role, helped you to achieve your current role?
Yeah, it was a variety of skills, which also changed over time, of course. So some kind of basic computer science skills around software architecture and requirements engineering and project management, and software design and coding principles. I went through already many years ago, and kept many of them, and they are super useful even today. But it got a bit more specialized when I started to focus on Web3. So my kind of focus of interest became distributed systems, and algorithms, cryptography, even maths, because as you know, in order to really understand how ZK snarks, for example, work under the hood, you have to have a kind of good understanding of polynomials and their properties. So I had to refresh quite a lot of stuff from my studies, but it's fine. I'm really happy to learn. So
Yeah,
I enjoy it. So this is kind of the hard skills. Then there are some, everyone has some individual strengths, or we can call them skills. Like mine was, people told me all the time that I was very good at explaining kind of complex concepts on various levels of abstraction, depending on to whom I explain. And this is something I benefited from kind of all the time. I was doing that from the beginning on. The topics changed, these concepts changed, but the skill of being a good explainer is what I maintained over these years. And then in terms of kind of soft skills, people related skills, there's also a lot to learn. I mean, from the very first opportunity when I was offered to lead a team at a very young age, no experience, no training in that. I took that opportunity, but it was more of a role of being like, like the captain of the football team. So I was one of them.
yeah,
I was a teammate, but I became kind of the team lead. Okay. Later on, other roles in other companies were very different. It was kind of more of a coach. So I'm not playing with them, but I'm coaching them. After some years, as the company grew, my own team became kind of 50, 60, so kind of different dimensions,
yeah.
you do not only have direct reports. Then it was about showing or teaching people how to lead others, was also kind of
Okay.
a experience. Yeah, and one thing that I needed to learn over these years is how to deal with various stakeholders. It's not only your teammates, your boss, your colleagues, but there are clients, for example, and clients can be kind of tech savvy clients, so tech people. It can be business people, can be C-level, how to deal with investors, with board members. So kind of this was also very interesting to learn what kind of roles you need to play and how you can communicate with them. Yeah.
And how did you learn those communication skills? Is that just trial and error over time? Because based off a lot of the things that you were explaining them all come down to communication, right? Being able to easily explain really complex components of a certain technology, for example, or speaking with investors. And obviously, they're two very different things. And you obviously will speak to both in a very different way. But how did you learn to be able to change your communication styles and stuff?
It was actually learning by doing, to be honest. So and
Okay.
and and leaving my comfort zone all the time, which was sometimes it was hard, but I learned to reframe these situations, where you face something challenging because you face a situation for the first time. It's a bit scary and you don't exactly know how to behave. And I thought it would be easier if I see them simply as an opportunity to practice, to try out things, to learn if they work for me. So I learned a lot from others, kind of observing how others act and think, and trying to adopt and try out in during those opportunities if that works for me. So it was really learning from others, learning from examples, learning by trying and doing. This was, I guess, the most of the time. Of course, later on, you attend some trainings and whatsoever just to settle what you already knew. But it's rather this street smartness and not book smartness I obtained over the years.
Could you talk us through your current role in a little bit more detail then? Like, what's it like being the head of research at Zilliqa?
It's fun. No, really.
Yeah,
So it's I would say that the mission is to know and follow the state of the art in kind of everything a blockchain protocol needs, to understand how other protocols work, what we can learn from them, to monitor upcoming scientific papers, kind of something really new that maybe has not yet been implemented, and know that it exists, and to come up with solutions to, I would say, the hard problems, which are not just hey, sit down and code it. Um, yeah, in terms of concrete activities, or daily routines, it's I can tell you on average which kind of activities I'm doing
yeah.
in a month, but it changes. So there are days, there are some periods like days, even weeks where I code maybe all the time or most of the time. There are times where I'm not writing a single line of code. But in general, I would say it's a lot of reading papers, like academic scientific papers, reading code on GitHub, listening to podcasts to stay up to date, simply what's going on in the industry. I'm preparing or giving seminars, even internally, externally. This from time to time. This consumes kind of quite a lot of time. Writing papers, research papers, white papers, RFCs, improvement proposals, or reviewing them if others wrote such, designing features in our kind of new protocol I can talk about later, coding prototypes of those features, and simply interacting with others. So also having meetings with the engineering team, with the dev team, we got a lot with our CEO, CTO, and other colleagues. So yeah, it's a great mixture of activities. I really enjoy it, as you can hear.
You can tell. Yeah, it sounds fun. I can imagine there'll be a lot of people listening who would love to be, at the forefront of innovation, like you are. Have you got any advice for someone who wants to reach the position that you're in now. So someone who wants to start in the research space and be able to be at the forefront of innovation and being able to get involved in a lot of the things that you're describing there. Do you have any advice for someone if they're kind of starting out on that journey?
Yeah, the question is where they are starting from. But in
Okay.
general, I believe it's in general good advice, regardless of on what level you already are in terms of these technologies or even the theory behind it, to uh, to 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 keep learning. So never give up learning. There's always either something new or you can dig deeper, and you will see, due to the knowledge you simply gain, and your understanding, and maybe combined with some ability to convey, to explain, as I told you, you will also get opportunities to prove yourself in whatever roles you sought after. So yeah, I guess learning is my main thing, my entire life, and I can just
No,
recommend everyone to do the same.
no, that's really good advice. Really good advice. So I think it's quite nice for people to hear that someone in your position still puts such a big emphasis on still learning. Obviously, you have had a really successful career, and obviously now you're right at the forefront of the research and innovation um, side of things. I suppose it's really nice for people to hear that you still put such a big emphasis on trying to learn and still grow and still develop yourself, which is yeah, it's nice to hear. So, could you introduce us to Zilliqa in a little bit more detail, please?
Yeah, sure. So Zilliqa is a layer one blockchain protocol from Singapore, by the way. It started 6 years ago. It became famous for being the first sharded blockchain before Ethereum also had kind of this approach. It changed then quite a lot. So the current dank sharding, proto dank sharding is a little bit different. So Zilliqa is closer to the original sharding approach. Ethereum wanted to pursue. And it's about massive scaling, the blockchain trilemma, and scaling. Otherwise, we use proof of work. That there are not that many blockchains anymore using proof of
No.
work, but not in the same way like Bitcoin does. So in our case, proof of work is only done for kind of very short periods. Uh, Once per hour, approximately for 1 or 2 minutes, to select the validators. So we
Okay.
need validator sets for the shards. They need to be selected randomly, and this is where we currently use proof of work. In the future, we will move to proof of stake. Consensus algorithm is PBFT. We are using, so kind of, this is the grandfather, grandmother of many consensus algorithms out there today. We have our native token called ZIL, and we have a separate governance token called GZIL. We have a own kind of smart contract programming language called Scylla, which is meant for more secure smart contracts besides EVM support, which we also have. And currently we are working on Zilliqa 2.0, which is actually a brand new protocol. It will be launched with a new network next year. So this is also most of my work, and our team's work
No,
with that.
that's cool. That's cool. Is that common knowledge yet, or is that a bit of an inside scoop that you've released there?
I'm not disclosing any secrets here, so it's already known that there will be something new to come, but details are not known yet. So it's kind of yeah, very new. The
Okay.
community knows if they follow our communication, but it's we haven't really done a lot of kind of communication, marketing, PR on this. So yeah.
Okay. Nice. I won't try and delve any deeper because I don't want you to release any secrets that you're not allowed to release. But what does it take then? What does it take to build or create a new blockchain or a new protocol?
Yeah, I mean, it's in our case, it's even a little bit more complicated than create a new one from scratch, because we already
Okay.
have one. And of course, a new one must be better in kind of every possible way. It needs to be cheaper and faster and more powerful, but it also needs to be backwards compatible. And we need to ensure a smooth migration of all the projects that already live on Zilliqa, the current version of the chain to the new chain. So this is an additional challenge.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's kind of a lot of pieces you need to design and fit together. So every blockchain needs a consensus algorithm. You need P2P networking. You need persistence. Every node needs to persist some data. Mempool, transaction processing. Even kind of non-technical or less technical topics like you need a tokenomics. You need a governance. So a lot of pieces that need to be designed and then, of course, also implemented.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about. A lot to think about. And
Maybe
what's it been
let
like?
me. Yeah,
Go on.
sorry, sorry, Jack. I just wanted to give you an example of okay, what's challenging. Is there anything that has not yet been kind of solved by others, and you can kind of copy their solutions? And one thing I would pick is two properties that we want to optimize for are kind of fast finality and high throughput. So fast finality means that you have short block times, and these blocks are kind of final within a few seconds, less
Okay.
than Ethereum and other chains. And high throughput means a lot of transactions in every block. And only achieving one of these properties is not that hard. So our current kind of DevNet can produce and finalize 8 blocks per second. Eight blocks, not transactions.
Okay.
So it's actually great, but those blocks are actually empty. It's just the block production. They don't contain kind of heavyweight transactions which require a lot of processing. If you want to
Okay.
fill those blocks with thousands of transactions, then the nodes need to execute the transactions, and it takes time. They need to execute them in order to check kind of the validity of the proposed block before they agree that the block is kind of valid and can be committed. And you already see kind of the trade-off between the two, and why kind of a combination of certain properties makes it harder to achieve them all. And in this case, what we are working on is kind of concurrency or parallel execution of transactions. But there are several such challenges which have not yet been completely solved by no one in this industry.
I can imagine that's quite fun working on challenges that, especially for someone like yourself who, with the research and your PhD background and stuff, like being able to solve challenges that haven't been solved before. I can imagine is something that's really exciting, like keeps you really interested, and yeah, and you probably don't regret leaving the corporate world to come across and work on exciting stuff like
Not a single day.
that. So what's it like, or what's it been like doing that whilst we're in a bear market then?
Yeah, I mean, a few things are different. Like it's harder to find investors. This is also what I'm hearing from the startups I work with, I mentor. No one throws money at you just because you can spell NFT or whatever. Um,
You need
if
to
you
add an
already,
AI section.
yeah, of course. uh, but if you already got money because you have a really good idea and you convinced people that it works and you are the right team to build it, then you need to be more thoughtful of how much money you can afford to spend on various things, in order to deliver the things you promise before you run out of money. You need to prioritize what you want to focus on. There's kind of having more or less infinite money, or in many cases it feels like infinite money at disposal, because if your tokens skyrockets, then and I don't believe that that phase is a better one. I believe that this more disciplined planning and execution is the right way to do things. Of course, it's bad for especially for new startups if they don't get funded, because then it's over. Then you can do
Mm.
anything, even if you had a really good idea. But still, I believe this kind of disciplined way of working is better than just kind of swimming in money.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it builds a real solid foundation and a solid base to be able to scale moving forward, right? If you're, if you're kind of rushing to get stuff built and rushing to get stuff out because you need to catch the next kind of wave and everything, I can imagine maybe there's some corners that sometimes get cut or something like this. But I guess if you can take the time to build something properly with the solid foundations, then it really helps when you come to scale in the future. So what's it really like working in a Web3 startup then? I guess everyone has this idea of how, and maybe people who aren't in the Web3 space maybe have this idea of how kind of glamorous and fun and crazy and cool it might be to work within a startup in the Web3 space. What's it really like when you're on the ground there?
Yes, some things are. I mean, Zilliqa. I wouldn't call Zilliqa a startup anymore. It has a lot of startup spirit, like kind of everyone in this industry. But yeah, the company has been around for 6 years. We have
Yeah,
already existing structures, and so a lot of things are simply more professional, like in real startups. Um, but something that was new for me, for example, and maybe new to many people who kind of come from the traditional corporate or Web2 or whatever world, and join the Web3 space, is this fully remote work. So the team is fully distributed. Everyone is sitting more or less at home. No, offices are not so extensively used like I used to in the past. It has some downsides for sure, because if you have
okay.
never met most of your colleagues, then you can have a good relationship, work together, but it's different when you meet someone in person. But it works, and it's astonishing how well it works. And fortunately, I had to learn it, like all of us, during the pandemics, during my previous job actually. So it was no difficulty for me. But this full distribution of the teams worldwide and working remotely is I guess something very typical for Web3 startups and even larger companies.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I don't think I've spoken to a Web3 company for the last 12, 18 months that have said, yeah, we really need someone to come into the office, to be honest. I don't think it happens really anymore. Not in Web3 anyway. There's a bit of movement in tradition. I'll say traditional Web2. It's still not necessarily traditional, but in the Web2 world where, there's a bit of a movement to try and get people back to the office. But in Web3, I suppose it can't really happen because everyone's based in, you might say, if you say you're a startup with 20 people, you might have people from 10 different countries within that group. So you've got no office really that they can go to. So if someone is stepping into a leadership role within for the first time in Web3, then with the team being distributed and no one kind of meeting and this kind of stuff, have you got any advice that you can share with someone on how to kind of set yourself up for success in that sort of role?
Yeah, my advice is the same as it would be for Web 2, but this distributed remote work makes it even harder. First, you need to realize that you're leading people. So whatever your role is, tech lead, etc., it's not about tech; it's about leading people, and for that you need to to do things you may not be used to without being a leader or of whatever team, like listen, listening to people, understanding their feelings, their motivations, concerns, desires, without them complaining or kind of telling you, hey, or objecting about something. Then earning their trust, it's so essential. And being careful not to lose it, because once it's damaged, it's really hard to restore. And earning it with your behavior, not with promises you cannot keep maybe later. uh, be authentic, be yourself, be honest, be respectful all the time. It's there's no, I don't see a difference between Web 2 and Web 3 in these regards, because all of us are humans. And I worked with very young people. Even in Web 2 we had a super young team, on average, I don't know, below 30, so 20 something. So I was used to this kind of generation, and how they kind of think and work. You need to understand when you shall step in, and it's most of the time in uncomfortable situations, when there are tensions, conflicts, I don't know, dissatisfaction with something. Then you need to be there because you are the leader. And you need to you should stay in the background when there's sunshine, so let the others shine. This is your job, basically, to encourage them to take ownership, initiative, and earn the fruits of it, basically, not kind of to contribute to your own career.
No, that's really good advice. Really good advice. And are there any mistakes that you made throughout your career that were some really key learns for you? Probably focusing more on the learn that came from it than the actual mistake. But are there any points that really stand out to you as a key learn that you could share?
Yeah, I had to learn a lot, but I would not call them kind of mistakes. So I had to learn how to
Okay.
delegate. I was not the best at it at the beginnings. I had to learn to tame my ego in leadership roles, and
Okay.
several other things we already touched. There was, I guess, one thing I regretted a bit at some point, and then fixed it, fortunately, later. And it was to trade off my developer career for a high management role.
Okay.
And the decision was actually easy. I wanted that role. It was kind of my desire, but I didn't know about the consequences. I didn't know how badly I would miss coding, for example, and the appreciation for my technical skills I was used to in the past. So. Um, yeah, maybe I would change this if there was a time machine, if you can go back in time. But I'm fine with how the things went on, and as I mentioned, I before it became too late, I fixed it again, and this was also something, as I told you, that led
Yeah.
me to Web three, and my current position.
Have you? There's probably quite a lot of people listening who are maybe at that crossroads or at that fork in the road where they can either kind of stay technical or they can go down the management route and they're really unsure about what to take. Have you got any advice on maybe how you made that decision or any advice for them if they're at that point in the road?
You have to realize, if you didn't know yet, that management positions are not that shiny as they seem to be. So they are quite tough and hard, and um, if you are used to, and if you enjoy kind of the the feedback a technical role. So I will tell you concretely what I missed the most. If you
Okay.
create a program, if you write a program, and it works as expected, it's a feedback, it's a good feeling that you cannot replace with anything, or there is no right no kind of one-to-one replacement if you have a kind of pure leadership or management role, because in that management role you work mostly with people, and people are non-deterministic. So you don't get the feedback you expect or maybe deserve, or you think you deserve, and this was simply a struggle for me. I was used to having this kind of direct, mostly positive feedback, and being kind of happy with my results, and others telling me, "Hey, good job." And In my management roles, I many times and didn't understand why things did not work out as I wanted to. I gave my best, and other things
Yeah.
suddenly worked out, and yeah. But I don't want to turn down anything. So being a good leader is so important for even small teams, for organizations. So if you feel like you want to become one or be one, go for it. But never forget, it's about people and it's about other people. It's not about yourself. You are a servant. You're helping your team, your organization, and then go for it and then make your way, your career there.
I suppose it's quite hard to know if you don't like it without giving it a go, right? Because if you hadn't have ever gone into a leadership role, you wouldn't have maybe realized that you don't get the feedback for it like you would do if you were building a system or building a program or something. So I suppose without really getting into it and giving it a go, it's quite hard to judge. Um,
It's
which
it's
maybe
also
doesn't
hard
help
to
anyone.
practice.
Doesn't really help anyone listening, I suppose.
It's also hard to practice, like I did as a child with my home computers, to get kind of a gut feeling for what this kind of jobs might be about, kind of as a software engineer. You cannot really practice this management and leadership roles
No.
before you get them, but you can still kind of observe. If you already got a job, and you work in an organization, then you can be mindful about what's going on, and observe how management, how well or less well it works. Talk to people, and then make up your mind if you want to face the same challenges as the leaders do, or if you want to keep kind of or building your career in a tech role.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, now there's obviously tons and tons of really senior tech roles that you can do that don't require any sort of leadership, right? So you don't have to necessarily go down that route if you don't want to. So yeah, there's all
So
sorts
I
of
mean,
stuff that you
here
can do.
are what I see. It's also hard to generalize, because the same title, the same role can mean different things depending on the team, on the organizations. There are cases where the challenge is really to work with the team. There are some issues among the teammates, or the team inside a large organization does not have the visibility, the acceptance, whatsoever issues there can be. So then this role is kind of less technical, even though it has the same title as the same role in another organization where everything works fine, and they really want to have a tech guy who knows things better, has more experience with certain architectural things, or even a programming language. They want to have the most senior Rust developer. So these roles can vary, yeah, depending on the challenges in the organization. So, if you apply for such a role, always ask recruiters, or in your interviews, what is it actually about? What's the mission? And not just the title and the salary and all these things. And uh, I think every organization, every recruiter is happy to give you some insights. Maybe they won't tell any secrets or so, but kind of give you some insights, and they are happy to see that you are interested. You want to know what the job is about, and not just get it and earn the salary and get all the goodies.
Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, that's obviously one of the challenges when I'm recruiting for organizations is really working out what type of person do you need, because an engineering manager at one organization might be completely different to an engineering manager at another one. So really working it out is yeah, it's tricky actually. And I think that can sometimes change as well throughout the process. If you're applying for roles and you speak to a company, they might speak to a couple of people who are very, very technical and then quickly realize, oh, sorry, they might speak to people who are, very, very management and not as technical as they still, or not as hands-on as they might want. And then they change their mind halfway through the process and go, actually, you know what? We've talked to a load of people there, and we actually think we need someone who is way more technical and way more hands-on. So yeah, it changes. That's just one of the welcome to one of the challenges of being a recruiter, I suppose. But so is there a piece of advice that you wish you'd have been told earlier in your career?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Yeah, I guess a bunch of them. But it was okay not to know. It was okay to make this experience and this learning without knowing in advance. I mean, this is what life is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
But sure. So, for example, I don't know. And these advices are always very kind of individual.
Mm.
If they apply to you or someone else, depends on your personality. So maybe something I'm saying is either obvious or nonsense to you. But I would have been thankful if someone told me at young age that I should develop my strengths and not bother that much about my weaknesses. I wanted to be perfect at everything, fit into some stereotypes, and yeah, I'm not saying I failed, but I could not reach that. No one can reach the same perfection in everything, and I just wasted a lot of energy on that. Or I don't know, just take more risk and use opportunities more spontaneously. Even if you see those risk, and you consider everything, and you have concerns, sometimes you just have to try. So
I
yeah.
really like that.
Or another thing, which is again very individual, is don't try to make everyone happy. There are simply people who you can make happy, or even worse, they see that you are trying hard, and they abuse it and try to manipulate you. So it cannot be kind of the goal of your life to make others happy, and depend on their kind of feedback or whatsoever. So yeah, these kind of learnings, some of them took me long, but it's okay. As I mentioned, and I'm also happy to share them with others if they apply for their situation, for their circumstances. But I think we are different enough, all of us, to have our own issues and learnings to go through. So yeah.
No, that's good. I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's really good advice, really useful for people listening, especially the part about not having to be perfect at every single thing, and really kind of honing in on your strengths and really doubling down on your strengths. I really like that. Really like that advice. So
Yeah, there is a good book. I forget the author. I read it many years ago. It's called The Halo Effect. The halo,
okay,
and it says that people or many kind of exposed personalities, mainly those were the examples in the book, are kind of judged based on a single either achievement or a quality they have, and everyone believes they are kind of perfect in every possible way, just because they were super successful in one thing. And this is not true. I mean, later we learn kind of the full picture, like I don't know, we know a bit more about Steve Jobs, for example, today than a few years back. And everyone has kind of strengths and weaknesses, and kind of a complex personality. So this effect, and the opposite of it, by the way, this is how the book goes, is that if you're such an exposed person, and you make or you do not even make mistakes, it just happens that it was, yeah, I can tell you, I don't remember the name, to be honest, but one of the examples in the book was the former CEO of Cisco,
Okay.
who was kind of a god end of the 90s, Cisco skyrocketing. But after the burst of the bubble, dot-com bubble, like every other company, he didn't make any kind of mistake. It completely crashed. And from then on, the press started to kind of uh, just write the opposite. So it's a kind of everything that was believed about him in the past was wrong, and then he became kind of suddenly the worst person, the same person, and yeah, this is one of the fallacies, I guess, and just mentioned it because, yeah, it was somehow fitting to.
No, that's a good book. So that's called the Halo Effect.
Yeah, the halo effect,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. I'm gonna make a note of that, and I'll check that out. Sounds good. So so if someone's coming into the Web3 space for the first time, then how do they set themselves up for success? Like, are there certain expectations around the industry and when you join the industry and working within it?
Yeah, one thing you should ask yourself, if you really identify with the values. I really believe in these values, even though many times, and or others perceive us differently. But I have not joined this industry, to earn kind of quick money, and all these memes, like, to the moon and Lambo, etc. Is This is nothing for me.
Yeah.
So I truly believe in the values, and I guess if you want to stay in this space and be successful, you need to identify with them. Then be prepared for maybe the fastest moving industry you have ever worked in. So it's much faster than IT in general. Is already kind of very fast paced. But this is crazy, I would say. But the good thing about it is that there is always enough to learn, which is something I love to do all the time, and acquiring kind of really deep knowledge in all these non-trivial topics is an advice I would give to everyone. Actually, regardless of your position. So, and what is deep depends on you. So but try to always dig a little bit deeper than you were used to, and it might differentiate you in your role from others, from kind of competitors, from other people applying for the same role. Mm, yeah, and again, this values mindset. Um, Let me give you an example. What I mean. So, one of the kind of very well-known themes in Web3 is trustless and decentralized. We are talking all the time about these, and these drive a lot of developments, or I believe are the drivers of this industry. Otherwise, we are not doing better than Web2. And designing solutions with these kind of properties in mind is very different than without, or in Web 2. So you cannot simply rely on things you were used to in the past, because, yeah, in Web 2 there is some cloud service, you can kind of push data there, or call it, you get a reliable response, etc. So this is the wrong way of thinking. And the simplest example to show kind of the difference. The contrast is what all of us know is the double spending problem. And this double spending is not an issue in centralized systems. It's simply trivial. Send all the happening, all the transactions to a central entity which you simply trust in, because this is the paradigm basically. You trust in the entities or in certain entities in the system, especially the large ones, the powerful ones. They will do the job. They will kind of determine the course of these events or the order of these events, and they will filter out if there are attempts to double spend. So this problem does not really exist there, but it's a hard problem, as we know, in decentralized systems where you cannot rely on such a central entity, and this is why we need consensus and all this stuff. So you need to change even a little bit your technical thinking and how you design features and solutions in this space.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. Really good insight. Because I think the mindset shift, maybe from coming across from Web 2 into Web 3, is probably the biggest kind of change, right? I guess building technology is building technology to some degree. There may be some problems that you haven't necessarily solved before, but it's still programming, or it's still yeah, still systems or whatever it might be. But I think the mindset around why you might be doing certain things, and the kind of the ethos that underpins certain companies and things like that, I think is maybe one of the biggest shifts. Excuse me. And I guess
Fully
with
agree. Yeah.
a with a lot of the projects being so open source and so out there, you have so many opinions coming in from the community, kind of hammering in you all the time as to when's there going to be an update on this, and when's this going to be built, and when's this going to be released, which you don't necessarily get in Web 2. So maybe there's slightly different pressures from a Web 3 perspective, just because of how kind of open and out there it is. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I think you
the
just have to be mindful of that.
hypes are a little bit more intense, so to say, and it causes distraction. I would agree. Yeah, so there are a few differences, but yeah, I guess everyone who seriously wants to work in this space and is interested in this space, in the technology, in the values, will get used to those differences. So it's not like kind of living on a
Yeah,
different planet.
yeah, I agree. I think I already know the answer to this question, but what's your favorite part of working in the Web3 space?
So what brought me to this space was, it was not investing. So I own a few tokens, various tokens, but it was not kind of earning quick money. It was really the ideology around decentralization and kind of inclusiveness and protecting people, simply protecting the poor, the weak, and preventing the abuse of power, which is kind of a natural consequence of growth and
Mm,
in a little bit more general or in a broader sense. So a lot of things in the world can only work efficiently if they scale. They have to grow simply, because you need scaling effects, you need network effects. So it's okay to grow and to scale. But if this growth is controlled, and the service of whatever we are talking about is controlled by either single entity or a few entities which get super powerful, then yeah, we know the dangers, the risks of abusing this power in various ways. You can, or they can abuse the power. And the question is, can you grow on this scale globally and provide a service and infrastructure without these downsides, without giving it into the hands of a few entities or even a single entity, a monopoly? And I guess this is our mission. This is whether it's payment, or could be, I don't know, social networks at some point, which grow to similar sizes like Web 2 social networks today. But these things uh, need growth. They need massive scaling, and not only massive scaling in terms of how many transactions per second you can process, but kind of cover the entire population, cover the entire world. And so these were kind of my drivers, and the technical challenges I saw there. So in distributed systems, in cryptography, in the first time I kind of faced ZK proofs and snarks. Oh, I was blown, and I wanted to learn, dig very deep, learn exactly how they worked, how the math works, and build such stuff. So all of that together, the ideology, the values plus the tech, was for me the perfect combination.
It sounds like you really, yeah, really, really love working in Web3 and working on the Web3 technology.
I do.
Is there anything is there anything you change about the Web3 space?
Yeah, there is. So the first thing is, I don't know how, but if we could just get rid of, the scammers, the imposters, the charlatans. There are simply people that harmed this industry, and yeah, if you ask me for one thing, this would be the thing, I guess, because
Mhm.
we are being perceived, I believe, by many people outside of Web3 in an unfair way. We kind of the good ones did not deserve. We have kind of good intentions, I believe, and yeah, the perception is, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even to be honest, the scams aren't just there from either a scam project perspective or people trying to do hacks and stuff like this. I even see scam CVs and scam profiles um, get sent to me, or people would apply for a role or send me a message saying they're looking for a job. And then I get on a video call with them, and it's just completely obvious that they're either reading from a script and they can't divert away from that script, but they're just really trying to get a job within the Web3 space to collect the cash to
Yeah.
just not do any work in the background for 2 months and just disappear, for example, which is really bad. I've been in recruitment what 10 years now, and yeah, I haven't didn't have that issue when I was recruiting in Web3 companies. When you come across the Web3, it's yeah, it seems to be a real issue. So yeah, I'm with you there. If we could get rid of that, it would be great place to be. Sultan, then to wrap up, as a leader in Web3, then what advice could you give if you could summarize? What advice could you give for people looking to follow in your footsteps?
First of all, I would say do not try to copy anyone just to get in their footstep. You'll be disappointed. Simply, it didn't work for me. So fine, figure out what's important to you, what is your thing, simply, and find your way. It's fine to learn from others, to adopt things, but it you have to stay yourself. And of all of the things we have spoken about today, I would say stay curious, never stop learning, and success will come.
Love that. That's brilliant. Well, no, Zoltan, thank you very much for taking the time to have a conversation today. I've yeah, really enjoyed it. You shared some brilliant advice. It was great to learn yeah more about your journey and why you got into technology in the first place. Um,
Really pleasure, Doug. Thank you.
if anyone's interested to follow up with you or they're curious, they want to ask you any questions, are they able to reach out to you on like Twitter or LinkedIn and stuff, for example?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm rather old school, so either LinkedIn, or you can send me an email on Zoltan. So the first name at Zilliqa.com, and I'm
Great,
happy to answer whoever reaches out.
great. Cue all the job applications that come flying into your inbox now.
Yeah, job applications or whatever spam. There is more than enough of it. But anyway, so I'm kind of not hiding. So I'm happy to
No, that's great.
have conversations with anyone.
Cool. That's great. Well, yeah. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks. Take care.
Cheers.